So this is the new Tecno POVA 6 Neo that has just been launched. Now, if you look at this device, it has an interesting design, which we are going to come to in a moment. Now, if you're familiar with Tecno or the brand, you would actually know that the Tecno POVA series is actually focused on power. It's actually focused on battery life. It's actually focused on giving you long-lasting batteries at the slight expense of other things like the display, the camera quality, and a few other things here and there. And that is what has actually happened here with the Tecno POVA 6 Neo. First of all, let's talk about the design here. This device has a very interesting design. Now, looking at it for the first time, it has a gaming-centered design, even though this is not a gaming phone. Now, it actually reminds me of the Asus ROG phone and a couple of other gaming devices that I've been able to handle in the past. Now, this design is kind of misleading if you are not careful. And I mean, that's just the way I feel about it. Because when I held this device for the first time, I was actually looking at these cuts at some of these places that had indications like probably there were LEDs there, or when you start doing something with this phone, those LEDs will come on, but none of them ever comes on. Don't get me wrong, this is a beautiful design. It's a fingerprint magnet, just as you would expect for something like this. And then it has this very big camera bump at the back that houses the two camera lenses and a very large ring light. And then it has the point there where it says 7,000 milliamps, which we are going to come to in a moment. And then there's this thing like an LED cutout there, but it's actually not an LED cutout. The Tecno POVA 6 Neo has a side-mounted fingerprint reader. It's pretty fast in unlocking the device. Then just above the fingerprint reader, there are the volume up and down keys. And the device also has stereo speakers. There's a speaker at the bottom, there's another speaker at the top. And then the Tecno POVA 6 Neo also comes with a USB Type-C port. And thankfully, this device still has a headphone jack for those of you who need it like me. And at the left side of the device, you have a SIM tray that can take 2 SIM cards. So generally, I love the design. I love the way the design feels. And I love the fact that this big camera bump at the back does not interrupt me when I'm holding the device or when it's sitting on my palm. This device is rated IP53 splash and dust resistant. So it is not water resistant, for those of you who did not hear me well. If you buy this device, please do not go swimming with it. Do not take it into a pool or anything. This device will not survive. They are telling you that if water accidentally splashes on the device will survive. But if you go deep inside water or go and swim with it in a pool, then the device might rest in peace. The main selling point of the Tecno POVA series is the battery. Now, this device has a whopping 7,000 milliamps battery. That is why if you're holding it, you'll definitely feel it in the weight. You'll feel it in the design of the device. But again, if you come to think of it, 7,000 milliamps battery doesn't really sound like a lot in 2024, because there are a lot of devices that are doing 5,000, 6,000, even 6,500 or 6,000 plus. But here are some of the things that Tecno is actually doing to ensure that the battery of these POVA devices lasts longer. Instead of going for, let's say, an AMOLED display or a Super AMOLED display, they'll go for an LCD display instead. These ones will not consume so much power, and then they will drop down the brightness of the display. So instead of the display going up to maybe 1,000 nits or 1,500 nits of brightness, they will keep it at around 500 nits of brightness. These small things and a couple of other things, when put together, will really ensure that the battery of this device lasts longer than you would expect. For instance, on the POVA 6 Neo here, instead of going for an AMOLED display, this device comes with an LCD display. The size of this display is 6.7 inches and it has a maximum brightness of around 580 nits. This is exactly what I was telling you before. They could easily have made this display to go up to 1,000 nits of brightness, or at least 800 nits, which will be bright enough. Also, this display supports a 120 Hz refresh rate. You might want to go into settings and go and confirm that it is turned on automatically. Else, you have to turn it on manually by going to settings. Under settings, if you go to display, under display, you come down to screen refresh rate, tap on it, and so you can see here now, you can either switch to 60 Hz, 90 Hz, or 120 Hz, or you can leave that decision for the device to make, and the device will be auto switching between these 3 variable refresh rate. depending on the situation. But again, this is an okay display if you ask me. It's not the best, doesn't look so sharp, doesn't look so vibrant and all. But again, remember what I told you from the beginning of this video. Anybody that is getting a phone like this is not really after the aesthetics. The person just wants a device that has very good battery life. This device is powered by the MediaTek Helio G99 Ultimate. This is the same chipset that is running on the Infinix Note 40 Pro and also the Infinix Note 40. The Helio G99 Ultimate is actually a more capable chipset than I thought. Now, this chipset can actually play Call of Duty Warzone, not at the highest graphics settings and sometimes not for so long depending on the device that is running it, but it's a very capable chipset, so you shouldn't have any issues playing your mobile games on it. Now, I've been able to play regular Call of Duty here with no problems. It's been performing well, and also the device is not overheating. For day-to-day activities and doing the regular things that every normal phone user do, the G99 Ultimate handles that very, very well. You will not have issues with the device hanging or the device being slow and all of that. From the box, the Tecno POVA 6 Neo comes with Android 14 and the new Tecno iOS 14. And I think Tecno is finally listening to its users, because most of the bloatwares you would actually find on these Tecno devices are almost not here anymore. So these UIs are becoming cleaner and they are more user-friendly now as I would like. Even though there are still a couple of bloatwares here and there, sometimes you still see ads, it's just very minimal. And that is something I very much appreciate. The POVA 6 Neo has two memory options. Either you are getting a version that has 8GB of RAM and 256GB internal storage, or you are getting a version that has 8GB of RAM and 128GB internal storage. Now let's look at the cameras right here. The main lens here is 50 megapixel, and I think that is the only lens that actually matters here. And then you have a very large ring light there, which is very, very bright when you need it. And also the selfie camera on this device is 8 megapixel. Now the performance of these cameras are just average, as I expected them to be. The pictures are really nothing crazy. The selfie pictures are good, they are okay, but there's really nothing crazy about them. But there's no wow factor about them. Then you look at the pictures that were taken outdoors, still the same thing, really nothing crazy here. And this device shoots videos. It shoots 1080p at 30 frames per second. And so the video performance is actually better than I thought it would be. So yeah, that is a plus. But again, as I told you from the beginning of the video, some sacrifices were made in order for you to get enough battery. So if you really care much about cameras and displays and all of those aesthetics, this device might not be for you. But if you want a device that the battery can last for very long, then you might want to go for the Tecno POVA series.